Princess Illyra of the Varelian Concord stood before the High Council and agreed to marry a human, not for love, not for power, for peace. The war between the Varelians and the Terran Union had burned across 7 systems. Ships shattered in silent light. Planets choked under blockade. Entire moons were reduced to drifting rings of metal and ash. The Varelians were older, wiser, and more advanced in many ways. But humans were relentless. They adapted faster than predictions allowed. They fought with creativity that bordered on madness. Every simulation ended the same way: mutual ruin. So the Council proposed an ancient solution, a binding union between royal bloodlines, a symbolic end to hostility. Shared heirs, shared futures. The human chosen was not a king, not a politician. He was a war captain, Commander Elias Rowan. When Illyra first saw him, she expected arrogance or fear. Humans were said to be emotional creatures, driven by impulse. Instead, he stood calmly in the ceremonial chamber aboard the Concord flagship. His dark uniform carried the marks of battle. His eyes were steady, not submissive, not hostile, observing. "You understand, this union ends the war," Illyra said. "Yes," Elias replied. His voice was low and controlled. "And if it doesn't?" A flicker of tension passed through the chamber. Varelians did not appreciate uncertainty. "Then we both failed," she answered. He gave a small nod. "Then let's not fail." The marriage ceremony was broadcast across human and Varelian space. Crowds watched in silence. 2 enemies standing side by side beneath twin banners. When their hands joined, it was not romance that passed between them. It was resolve. The ceasefire held at first. Elias remained aboard the Concord flagship as part of diplomatic integration. He studied Varelian systems. Their ships were elegant crescents of living crystal and energy lattice. Their weapons were precise beams that cut through holes like surgical blades. Their strategy relied on predictive algorithms refined over millennia. Humans fought differently. Elias requested access to tactical archives. He asked questions Varelian generals found strange. "Why do you retreat in perfect formation every time?" he asked one strategist. "It preserves order," the Varelian replied. "It preserves predictability," Elias said. Months passed. Peace seemed stable. Trade routes reopened. Joint colonies were planned along the border. Then the Drath emerged. They came without warning from beyond charted space. Massive vessels of blackened alloy. No signals. No diplomacy. They attacked human mining worlds first. Entire colonies vanished in hours. The Terran Union mobilized. The Varelian Concord hesitated. "It is not our conflict." Several councillors argued. Illyra watched the reports with growing horror. She had seen war, but this was extermination. Elias stood beside her in the observation chamber. His jaw tightened as another feed cut to static. "They will not stop at human space," he said. "We have no evidence of that," a councillor replied. Elias turned slowly. "You have no evidence they will stop anywhere." The council delayed action. They analyzed. They debated. The Drath advanced. When the first Varelian border station fell, the council finally understood. The enemy did not differentiate between species. War returned. This time it was survival. Joint fleets formed under shared command. Human destroyers fought alongside Varelian cruisers. But the Drath ships were larger, heavily armored, resistant to both beam and kinetic fire. Engagement after engagement ended in retreat. Losses mounted in the war chamber. Frustration grew thick. Our models cannot predict their maneuvers, a Varelian admiral said. Elias studied the holographic battlefield. Drath formations were rigid, brutally efficient. They advanced in calculated waves. They do not improvise. He said quietly. They do not need to, the admiral snapped. Elias looked at Illyra. Permission to command the next engagement. The chamber fell silent. A human commanding Concord vessels. One counselor protested. Illyra met Ilias's gaze. She saw not ambition, not pride, strategy. You have permission, she said. The next battle took place above the shattered world of Caveris. Varelian ships held traditional formation. Human vessels formed a loose screen. The Drath fleet approached in precise ranks. Hold fire, Elias ordered. Confusion rippled through the Varelian captains. The Drath entered optimal range. Still hold. Energy signatures flared across the enemy hulls. At the last possible moment, Elias gave the command, break pattern. All ships scatter. Varelian captains hesitated for half a second. Then, Illyra's voice cut across the channel. Execute. The elegant crescent formation dissolved into chaos. Ships darted in irregular vectors. Human destroyers accelerated through impossible angles. Mines were deployed in spirals rather than lines. The Drath fired where the fleet had been. Beams cut empty space. Human vessels looped behind the rigid enemy columns. Varelian cruisers, freed from formation constraints, targeted exposed flanks. Focus on propulsion nodes, Elias instructed. Not weapons. It was unconventional. It was risky. It worked. One Drath ship lost maneuverability and collided with another. Their formation fractured. For the first time, their advance faltered. The joint fleet pressed the advantage. Coordinated but unpredictable. Precision guided by creativity. When the last Drath vessel retreated into jump space, silence fell across the battlefield. They had one dot, not without losses. But they had one dot. News spread fast. Across human networks. Across Varelian crystal relays. The human commander had rewritten the battle in the council chamber. Attitudes shifted. Your methods are chaotic, one elder admitted. Elias gave a faint smile. Chaos is just order you haven't studied yet. Illyra watched as joint task forces adopted hybrid doctrine. Varelian prediction models were recalibrated to include human variants. Human engineers integrated Varelian energy lattice into adaptive hull plating. Together they became something new. The Drath returned twice more. Each time they were met with strategies they could not anticipate. Feints within feints. False retreats that turned into silent ships powered down to mimic debris fields. The third defeat broke the advance. Long-range scans confirmed their withdrawal beyond known space. The war was over again. This time the celebration felt different. Not relief born of exhaustion, but pride. On the balcony overlooking the capital world, Illyra stood beside Elias as ships passed in ceremonial arcs overhead. Human and Varelian hulls gleaming together. You did not simply end a war, she said softly. You changed us. Elias watched the fleet. You changed us too. We learned discipline, precision. Illyra turned to him. When she had married him, she had seen a necessary alliance, a calculated sacrifice. Now she saw a partner. You shook the stars, she said. He looked at her, almost amused. No, we did. In the years that followed, the union between their peoples deepened. Joint academies trained officers in both doctrines. Children of mixed heritage grew up hearing stories not of ancient hatred, but of the Battle of Keveres, of the day rigid lines broke and something stronger formed. Historians would later mark the marriage as the turning point, not because it ended one war, but because it created a civilization that could not be predicted, and in a galaxy full of ancient powers that relied on certainty, unpredictability became the greatest strength of all. Princess Alira had married a human to end a war. Instead, he taught her people how to fight like stars.